you guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a beautiful crochet granny square cardigan, and for this you're going to need a 5.5mm crochet hook, 3 different colors of size 4 medium weight yarn. These are how my squares look, so I did 2 colors and 1 neutral, and then I corresponded the neutral color in the middle with our trim color, but feel free to do any sort of variation that you want. That's the beauty of granny squares and crochets. You can make it totally your own and totally custom. You will also need a yarn needle for weaving in the ends and some scissors and basic things like that. All right, let's get into it. First things first is that we need to make our granny squares. So we have an alternating pattern of green squares and pink squares, kind of in a checkerboard pattern like you see here. This sweater would fit a small to a large and potentially an extra large as well. The difference that I think it will make is in kind of how long your arms are, and I can show you how to make those adjustments as we go along. In case you are taller, if you have longer arms, there's very easy ways to just add squares or decrease squares according to how tall you are, whatever size you are. So that is no problem there. For a small sweater, you're gonna need 35 squares. And then for someone who has longer arms, needs more length in the sleeves, you're gonna need 39 squares. And then, you know, as you go, if you decide like, hey, I want mine to be more oversized, you can add more squares, and it's very custom, which is awesome. So, but just roughly for as you're making the squares, keep in mind, you'd need about 35 to 40 squares. And so you're gonna do half the amount green, half the amount pink. To start with our granny square, we're gonna start with our innermost color here, which for me is the neutral color, the cream. And we're gonna make a slip knot. Basically, you're gonna take the tail and cross it over the front and make a loop, and then grab that tail in the back and pull it up. And that's a slip knot. So then you're just going to insert your hook and tighten it. If you pull on the tail, that'll tighten it to your hook. And now we're going to chain 4. So we're just gonna pull through 1, 2, 3, 4. We're gonna do a slip stitch into the back bump of our first stitch. So if you flip this around, you should see all of these little notches right here. So there's 1, 2, 3, and that 4th one is pulled kind of tight. So to do a slip stitch, you're just going to insert your hook into that back bump, grab the yarn, pull through that stitch, and pull through the final stitch. And now we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And this is acting as our first double crochet. So to work a double crochet, you're going to yarn over your hook and then insert your hook into the center of this little loop that we made. So this is our beginning chain that we slipped and we made a little circle. So we're going to insert our hook into that circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That is a double crochet. So now we have 2. 1, 2. And we're going to keep working that until we have a total of 16 double crochets. That's 3, 4, so yarn over, insert your hook, grab a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then as you get towards that tail, this is a trick that I like to do to prevent me from ever having to basically weave in all of these tails, because when you have a granny square and you're changing colors like this, you end up having to weave in all of these different tails, and when you're making 40 different squares, that can be just really overwhelming and kind of the worst part. And so what I like to do is crochet the ends in as I go, and then I don't have to weave them in at the end. So as I insert my hook into the center, I'm just going to make sure that I have this tail grabbed in with this circle, and so then I'm just going to treat it like it's one so that that tail gets weaved in together. And that will just save you a whole lot of time later. So I'm nearing the end, so I'm just gonna count how many I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and I need 16, so one more. 16. And then to close this off, since there's a split there, we're gonna go into the top of this double crochet. So you'll see all of these V's running around the edge here. You're just gonna find that last V, which is the top of this double crochet right here. Insert your hook into that V, pull up a loop, pull through, pull through. And then I'm just gonna cut this yarn off and pull that through. And now if we flip it over to the back side, you'll see our tail. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pull that tight, and you'll kind of hear that yarn pulling through there, and it'll help to tighten up this circle so that you don't have a big hole. And since we've weaved in this tail, we can just snip it right off and not have to weave it in anymore because we worked it in as we crocheted. Yay! Now we're gonna grab our second color, this ring here, and I actually need to make more of the green squares, so I'm gonna copy this one. So my next color is going to be the pink. And so you wanna make sure that you are working on the correct side. So this right here, if you can see this like raised circle right here, as opposed to this one that is pretty flat on the front, this flat part is the front. If you turn this over and see that nice like defined circle, that's the back side. So just make sure that you're always working on the front side. So to change colors, we're just going to insert in any of these V's, does not matter which one, and we're just gonna grab our yarn and pull it through and tie a little knot. This just seems to be the easiest, most secure way, especially for beginners. It's just very clean and easy to do it this way. And now we're gonna do our puffed row right here, these little puffs. Wherever you tied that yarn to, we're just gonna insert our hook back into that same V and pull up a loop. And so now it's like we're starting. This is the beginning. So we're gonna yarn over and insert our hook and pull up a loop. That's one. Do it again, yarn over, insert our hook, pull up a loop, that's two. Yarn over, insert our hook, pull up a loop, that's three. And you know that you're done when you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 loops on your hook. And then we're gonna yarn over again and pull through all 7 of those. It's good to keep a little bit of slack on it, not too much, but just enough to where you can easily slide your hook through. So we just pulled through all 7 loops, and now we're going to chain 1 or slip stitch, whatever you want to call it. And now we're going to do the same thing again. And same as before, I'm going to grab this tail and just make sure it stays in line with those V's so that I grab it when I go to insert it. So yarn over, insert your hook, make sure you go around both the white and the pink. Grab your yarn, pull up a loop, that's 1. Yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, that's 2. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, that's 3. Grab your yarn, pull it through all of the stitches, and chain. Again, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, that's 1. Yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, that's 2. Yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, that's 3. Grab your yarn and pull through all 7 and chain. So we're just going to continue this all the way around into each of the 16 stitches. So again, you should end with 16 puffs. And now that we're at the white tail, This one can be a little bit finicky just because that's where we slip stitched. Basically, if you pull this apart here, this is the chain that you're going to be grabbing. This is the V. So you're just going to insert right there. But it is able to like pull apart and stuff. So just make sure it stays pretty tight. Yarn over, insert your hook. Make sure you've got that tail tucked in there. Grab your yarn. 2, 3, pull through all 7 and chain. Continue to tuck that tail in with your working stitches. Then we won't have to weave it in later. This is my first crochet tutorial that I'm filming on YouTube, so definitely let me know, do you like it when you are given the steps and then you just pause, work it, and then the next step is given to you? Or do you like it when the person doing the tutorial doesn't cut the clips at all and just works with you in real time? I think I might do this one more so in real time. If it gets too lengthy, I may cut some of the in between, but I'll try and keep as much as possible because I know it can be helpful to watch and see as many examples as possible. But definitely let me know for future reference which one you prefer. Alright, we have reached our last and final stitch, so we'll just work it the same way as before. And then we are just going to slip stitch again to close this off. So find this very last V that is on top of the puff, insert your hook, grab yarn, pull through, pull through. Alright, so that is our first little ring, our little donut. Now we get to work on the second round, which is these like pointy little clusters. So we just did our slip knot after doing our last puff, and now we're going to chain 3. So 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to yarn over, and in this space that's a little bit to the right of that chain that we just made, we're going to insert our hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So we should have 2 chains still on our hook. And then we're going to yarn over again, insert, pull up a loop, chain through 2. Now we should have 3. And one more time, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, chain through 2. Now we have 4. Once we have 4, we're going to yarn over and pull through all 4 of them. And we're going to chain 2. And then we just move over to that next space in between our 2 puffs. You're going to yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, pull through 2. You should have 2 chains. Yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, pull through 2, 3 chains. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, chain through 2. Now you have 4. Yarn over, pull through all 4, chain 1, chain 2. And just continue that down into each of the spaces. I'm also very curious if y'all watching this, are you complete beginners, or have you done this before and you just wanted a new pattern? Because I'm also curious, like, do you guys know how to chain? Like, are you brand spanking new to crochet? Or do you pretty much know all your basic stitches and just, you know, are following this to know how to put them all together into something? Because that's another thing. It's like, how in depth would you like me to go explaining, like, you know, slip stitch and chaining and all the different, you know, basic, you know, single crochet, double crochet, things like that. All just very interesting to me. If this is your first project, that is super exciting. I would say that this is definitely beginner friendly. One of my first projects was a granny square project, so I think that they're pretty beginner friendly, I would say. And they help you practice several different stitches, which is fun. All right, so that was our last space, and we just did our chain 2. And now we are going to find that first chain 3 that we did. So you'll kind of see that this is our cluster, and then over here there's like this extra sidebar of chains. We are going to find, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, this top V right here. We can insert our hook into that, pull up a loop, and pull through. That's our slip stitch to connect those two ends together. And now we're just gonna cut off a couple inches for our tail. And we can just pull that loop through, give it a little tug, and that is our current granny square. And so now we get to do the outer edge right here, which makes our granny square an actual square. And for me, I'm gonna be doing that in green. And for the sake of working in our tail, I have found that it's best to start 3 over from wherever your tail is. So these gaps right here in between our clusters, you'll see there's these open spaces. That's what we're going to be working into. So I personally like to count 1, 2, 3, 3, and start working in this space. You'll see why in a second. And so we are going to do the same thing as we did before when starting a new color. We're just going to put our yarn through that space and tie it off. We're just going to take our hook and insert it from front to back into this big open space where we just tied off. So insert that. We are going to grab our yarn and pull up a loop, and now we're ready to start. So now we're going to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That is acting as our first triple crochet. And so now we're going to do another triple crochet where you wrap around once, twice. So a double crochet, you just wrap once and then you insert. But since this is a triple, we wrap once and then twice, like so. So you should have your chain and then 2 loops. And then we're going to insert back into that large space, grab your yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So same concept as a double crochet, there's just like an extra pulling through 2 to do. So we're going to do that again. So we're going to grab once, grab twice, insert your hook, grab a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And that is our first little cluster that we're working. And I didn't mention this before, but I did have this tail just tucked in there and I was working it in, same as before. So now this tail is weaved in and we can just let it drop and we will cut it off when we're done. Now we're going to work into this next cluster and we're going to do double crochets. So this was a triple crochet, now we're going down to a double, so same as before, just yarn over once, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over once, insert your hook, grab up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. One more time, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So now we have 3 double crochets. And then in our next cluster, this is the one where we are going to be weaving in our yarn. And as you can see, it is wanting, the yarn's wanting to like face this way. That's the natural way that it's sitting. If I were to do it this way, see how it wants to like stand up? It doesn't want to lay flat. So it naturally wants to lay this way, and that's the more discreet way to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold it along this way. And once you do your first half double crochet, it'll hold it into place. So the first one's just kind of finicky. So I'm going to lay this down and hold it behind here. So right here, this is my tail. I'm just going to lay it flat so that it kind of blends in with our chain. Into our next space, we are going to do half double crochets. So it starts the same as a double, where we yarn over, insert our hook, pull up a loop, but now instead of pulling through 2 and then pulling through 2 more, we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3. So do that again, and now our tail is secure in there and we don't have to worry about it. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. So now we have 3 half double crochets. And so you can kind of see the flat edge starting to form here. So we did a triple, we did double, we did half double. And now when we go to our next cluster, we're going to go back to a double crochet. So yarn over, insert our hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, once more, grab our yarn, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then if you are tracking with the pattern here, our next is going to be a triple. So we go back to the triple, which we grab 2 loops around, insert our hook, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Grab it twice, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. It's the tongue twister, y'all. All right, and then one more. Grab it twice, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2. Okay, so that is our first side of our square. Now we need to round the corner. So to do that, it's very simple. You're just going to chain 3. So yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 1. So that's 3 chains. And now working into the same space that we just did our 3 triple crochets, we're going to do 3 more triple crochets. So working back into that same spot, we insert our hook and do 3 more triple crochets just like before. So that's 1. We yarn over twice, insert our hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then once more. And voila. And that is our corner, if you can start to see that there. So same as this side where we did triple crochet, double crochet, half double crochet, double, triple, so triple, double, half double, double, triple. We're going to do the same thing. So we just did our triple, now we do double. And we're going to do 3 of those. And then in our next one, we're going to do half double crochet. So to do that, you yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. Oops, I got caught here. Pull through all 3. There you go. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, pull through all 3. So that's your half double. Now we go back to the double. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then do a total of 3. So there we go. And then now we're back to our triple. So we did 3 triple crochets. Now we have 2 sides. So our first side that we did, our second side, and now we have to round the corner again. So we did our 3 triples, and then we chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And then 3 more triple crochets back into that same opening that we worked before. Three more triple crochets. Now into our next one, we do 3 double crochets. Got a lot of yarn here. And into our next space, we do half double crochets. Pull through all 3. And double crochets. And then triple crochets. All right, that is our third side, so we need to round the corner again. So we will chain 3 and work back into that same space, 3 more triple crochets. Double crochet. Half double crochet, pull through all 3, and then double crochet, whoops, all right, so we just finished our double crochets. And now we are left with our spot that we did our first round of clusters, which were triple crochets. So we just need to finish off this corner. So we did one half to start with, and now we just need to do the other half. So we're gonna work 3 triple crochets into that same open space. That's 2. And that is 3. And so now we have these 2 clusters with this gap in between, so we're going to chain 3 to round the corner again. And now we're just going to slip stitch. So same as we did in all the other rounds to close it off, is we just found that top V, inserted our hook, grabbed a loop, and pulled through. And now we're going to cut off some of our yarn and pull that through and give it a little tug to tighten it up. And that is your granny square. If we flip it over, these 2 inner tails, we have already worked these in. So I'm just gonna cut these right off because we crocheted them in as we went. They're not going anywhere. But I will say that I recommend weaving this one in. There's not really a lot to work with when joining it together to make it secure enough for me, and I would just hate for any of us to be wearing our sweater and have our squares start unraveling because we didn't, weave it in properly. So I recommend weaving this one in. And so to do that, you're just gonna take your yarn needle, and you can get these at any craft store. They have plastic ones, they have metal ones, and they're super, super cheap. And so this is our front side. The best way I can always tell is looking at this center. So remember, this is like the nice flat one. If I flip it over, there's that like defined raised circle in the middle. So this is the back side. And we want to work in the back side when weaving in, just so that any mess is only visible on the back. And I just like to find some of these like tight loops. Can y'all see that here? So I'm just gonna kind of insert it in there, and if it feels snug as you pull it through, that's a good sign. That's what you want. So try and find some like tighter loops to pull through. Some of these like bigger front loops aren't necessarily the best because they're a little bit looser. So I kind of like to weave my way down to get to this part right here, because that just seems like the best way to secure it. So I just kind of weave my way down those double crochets. And then once I get there, I will just take this yarn and insert it all the way around, and you get a nice secure hold right there. So that seems good to me. Now I'm just gonna cut that tail off. All right, and so that is how you make your granny squares. So again, you're gonna make half of your squares, so roughly 20, depending on the size of sweater you want, roughly 20 in the green, and then roughly 20 in the pink. So I will meet you back here once you have all your squares done. Okay, now is the fun part where our sweater is gonna start to take a little bit of shape. This right here is our first front panel, and so this will go on one side, and then we're gonna duplicate this. It'll go here, and that'll be the front of our sweater. And so this is what we're gonna start with making, is our other front panel. And so you need 6 squares, and so easily that is 3 pinks and 3 greens. And then you're gonna need whatever color you are doing for this border here, this joining border. For me, that is the neutral color. So whatever color you prefer, grab that one now. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take any of your squares and insert your hook into any one of the corners from front to back. Now we're gonna take our yarn and we're just going to grab it, pull up a loop, and make sure that you have a good size tail, just enough to work with here. Basically, we're just gonna chain one, but we're gonna grab both the tail and the working yarn. So you're gonna be grabbing 2 pieces of yarn there and chain. Give those a good tug, and then now we can drop the tail and just chain one again with our working yarn. So that's gonna kind of secure our tail from going anywhere. So we're just gonna slide these to the right because we're gonna make our full corner here. So that acts as our first double crochet. We're gonna double crochet once more, which is the same as what you've just been doing. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that just made the first half of our corner. Now we're going to chain 2, and working back into the same corner space here, we're going to do 3 more double crochets. So we yarn over, insert our hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through 2, pull through 2, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that is our first corner. So we have a cluster of double crochets, a chain 2, and another double crochet cluster. Okay, now this next little series of crochets is quite easy. We are just going to work these same clusters, so 3 double crochets into each one of these spaces in between our pink clusters. So very, very simple. You're going to work 3 double crochets like so, and then we move into this next cluster right here. 3 double crochets. So working this border together, which I think really makes it look more put together, more, I mean, I don't want to say professional because crochet is all handmade, and like to me this just looks a little bit more put together and nicer in my opinion, rather than just like sewing these together like that. I think it just adds a little pizzazz and a little like finished edge, I guess is the best way to put it. So it adds so much to your project, but it's really simple. All you need to know is a double crochet, and then you will need to know a slip stitch, which is like the easiest thing ever. I'm just going to keep working in our cluster spaces. All right, so now we are back to our corner, and again, just work 3 double crochets, same as before. Okay, and now we have to turn the corner, which we chain 2, and then we work back into that space, 3 more double crochets. So it is the same concept as when we made this granny square and we rounded the corner with the pink. The only difference is that this was a triple crochet and we chained 3, and now we're doing a double crochet and we're chaining 2. But the concept is absolutely the same. So we just finished our corner, and now we are going to work into the next space here, and 3 more double crochets. So there's really no surprises as we go along. All right, we're back at another corner. 3 more double crochets and chain 2. All right, now we're gonna stop here. So we are actually gonna work this 3 across and then do another layer of 3. So we're going to end up with 6. So this is how we are working this project currently, so that we've got our pink in the right top hand corner, and we are going to add these squares on working to the left. Now we're going to grab our next square, which we know since this is a pink, we want this one to be a green. And so this first part, I will say, is probably the most finicky part of this whole thing. So if you can get this, you can do this whole thing, and I believe in you. You can get it. So if you have to rewind this part a couple of times, don't worry, that is no problem. So what we're going to do is we are going to yarn over, and then we're going to take our square, and we are going to insert our hook from front to back into the square. And then we're going to grab yarn and pull up a loop. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So essentially what we just did is a double crochet. The only part that's a little finicky is that this square is flopping around. And now what we're going to do is we are going to slip stitch, and this is what's going to join the two together and make that really, really pretty, like, braided effect down the front. You're going to look for this first V in the top of that double crochet. So right here is that first chain space on our pink square. And what you're going to do is you are going to slip stitch into that space. And so all you're going to do is you're going to insert your hook into that space. We're going to grab our yarn and pull through. That's a slip stitch. And now we're going to do our double crochet into our green square again. So yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. And then we're going to slip stitch into the next chain space. So insert our hook, yarn over, and pull through. That's our slip stitch. Then double crochet into the green again. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then we are going to, in the next chain, slip stitch, like so. So now we've already done our 3 in this corner space. We're going to move on to our next cluster. Same as before. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then same as before, we're going to insert our hook into this next space right here and do a slip stitch. Insert your hook, pull up a loop, pull through all of it, yarn over, do our double crochet, and then right in the next chain space we're going to slip stitch and double crochet. Good. And then we chain space, slip stitch again. We've already done 3, so we must go into our next cluster. So once you get over the finagling of the 2 squares together and you just focus on working your double crochets in the cluster and then slip stitching down the line, it really becomes super, super easy. And once you see that first square done and just how simple it was and how it really truly did all line up and match up perfectly, this really, you can kind of zip through and it becomes less and less complicated as you go. So just know, oh, I've already done 3, I must be moving on to my next one. Just find your next chain, slip stitch, go on to your next one. Okay, so we just did our last set of double crochets into our corner. We are going to find that last chain space, do our last slip stitch, and then chain 1. So the best way to remember this, in my opinion, is that we are now completing the other half of this corner. And so typically in the corners we chain 2, but since we're only doing half of it, we only have to chain 1. So, I mean, you can follow along with this video and do that, but if you're ever trying to like remember this for yourself, that's how I tend to remember it. So we just slip stitched, then we chained 1. Now we're going to finish off this other edge of the corner with 3 more double crochets. Voila! And now we're just going to work straight across the top, same as before. Guys, getting the hang of this? It is a little bit, I don't want to say confusing, but just a little bit different adding in the squares and kind of working around the corners, but once you get the hang of it and then you get to those edges, you can really just zoom on through, and it's very, very simple. And it's so fun because up until now you've just been making a crazy amount of squares, and now it's like you're starting to see the project come together rather quickly, which is very exciting. So we've reached the end of that top row. Now we're going to turn the corner, so we chain 2 and then do the other half into that same slot just like before. So we just did our first side of the corner. Now we are going to chain 2 and then turn this back to the correct way. So this was our first, this is our second, and now we're going to grab our next square, which should be pink. And now we're going to add this one on. So the same way that we worked this, and then we added the green on, and then we worked up, over, and down, we're going to do the same thing to this pink one and work up, over, and down. All right, so we just finished our last cluster. So if you are wanting this to be kind of right at your waistline, because consider this is your front panel, so this is from shoulder to waist. If you want this to be longer, this is where you will do that. So if you are really tall, if you want it to be longer, if you maybe are plus size or something like that, and you want more length, this is where you're going to do that. And so in the same way that we added this on, just go back in the video a few minutes and you're going to add on another square. If you want this to hit at about your waist and you're about size small to large, we are done adding horizontally. Now we're going to start working on this bottom part here. So make that adjustment if you are wanting to add the square, but if not, then just continue along with me here, okay? And we're going to continue this white border all the way along the bottom here. All right, so we did our chain 2 so that we could round the corner, and now just continue on. And when you get to do this border straight across, you really zip through. This is like the greatest part to do if you're just watching a show or something. I know even for myself, if I haven't done this for a while, I really need to like sit down and think about it for a minute and give myself a refresh. But like if you've been working this project for a while, it really just becomes like second nature, and you really understand like the building blocks of the pattern, because it's really not that complicated. Like if you just think about it, if you think about, you know, rounding the corners, or if you've done half a corner, then you just need to do the other half of the corner, or you know, joining together with the slip stitch. Like it's really common sense. And so once you get the instructions of how to do it, then you can kind of like understand the building blocks in your brain, which is really awesome and gives you a lot more confidence. Especially, we just finished that bottom border and we did our set of 3 in the last corner. Now we are going to chain 1, and then right here you should kind of see this little nub. Do you guys see that? And that's going to be your connector. So we chained 1, which is our first half of this joining corner. We're going to insert our hook here and do a slip stitch that connects us. And then we're going to chain 1 again. So that's finishing off this half's corner. Hopefully that makes sense. And then we'll double crochet and continue on down the line. All right, we are reaching another corner here. Just finishing my last double crochet. We're going to chain 1 to finish this side's corner. We're going to insert our hook into that little nub to connect our 2 corners. Let's see here. And slip stitch, so now we're connected. And then do 1 more chain to start this other corner. Or actually finish that other corner. This is what yours should look like. I'm going to turn it back around just so you can see it in the correct way. And that's what we should be looking like. Now we're going to start on our next row here. All right, so now we're going to add our next square, which, because this one is pink and we're adding it underneath here, it's going to be the green one. And we are going to work across the top, down the side, and then we'll add in another square, go up, across, down the side. So same concept as this. The only difference is now we get to slip stitch to something to connect these, whereas when we worked on the top here, we were just simply adding. There was nothing to slip stitch to. So hopefully that makes some sense. All right, so to finish this one off, I'm going to chain 2. And now we're going to add our other square the exact same way as we did before. Also, if you get confused as to like which side is right and left and top and bottom, you already know which side is front because we know that the smooth circle is in front, so you know that. Our right side edge is going to be the edge that we do last. So whatever edge doesn't have the white border yet, that's the right hand side. So hopefully that helps clear up any confusion there. All right, so we just did our chain 2. We are going to turn it this way and add on our square the exact same way as we did before. We yarn over, make sure you've got the correct side. We insert from front to back, yarn over, pull through. We yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That's our first double crochet. We find our chain to slip stitch into, pull up a loop and pull through. And now we continue on with our double crochets. And a slip stitch, double crochet, slip stitch, whoops, slip stitch, double crochet into our next cluster because we already have 3 in this one. Slip stitch, double crochet, slip stitch, double crochet, all right, so right here I accidentally did, wow, I was just working away. I was not paying attention. I have 5 double crochets in there. So if you ever do that, even if you don't notice it right away, like if you get to here and you're like, I don't have any more chains to do because you accidentally did too many down here, no problem. Just simply pull it out until you get back down to 3 double crochets. And then just hop over here like you're supposed to. If you have any questions that I have missed out on saying in this tutorial, I keep an eye on my comments all the time, so I will do my best to answer any of those questions that you may have. So definitely feel free to reach out. I know what it's like to have somebody skip over something and you're like, wait, you didn't even talk about it, and then they never answer and it's just frustrating. So I'll do my best. Okay, so we have reached the corner. Now this part is a little different than what we've done before. So basically what we want to do here is we want to connect all of our corners. So basically we don't want there to be any sort of hole in this section here where we're connecting all these squares. We want it to be nice and tight and secure. To do that, what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch into each of these corners. So we have a corner here, and then we have a corner up here. So we've got the pinks corner, and then we've got the greens corner. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna start with the one on the right hand side, which is the pinks corner, and we are just going to insert our hook and pull up a loop, and we're basically just slip stitching into that corner. And then we wanna come up to this greens corner, insert our hook, slip stitch, good. So now we've moved over and up into this corner, so we are ready and in line to finish this border up here and across. So we just did our slip stitch of this corner. Now we're just going to chain 1 and continue our double crochets into that corner, same as before. All right, we've reached our corner. Now we chain 2. And now what do you think we do? We add on our next square. So same as before, make sure you've got the correct side up. Not this side, but this side. We yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. You find that top chain space, slip stitch, and then go straight into your double crochets. So we did our last double crochet in this top corner here, and now we need to connect our corners just like we did before, but now we have an additional one to do. So we always start with the one on the side, work our way up, and then move over. So we're gonna go counterclockwise every time that we slip stitch into our additional corners to connect them. So first we're gonna slip stitch into this corner here of the green. Then we'll slip stitch into this corner right here of the pink, and then this corner here of the green. So very simple, just insert your hook, pull up a loop, pull through, that's one, then into the top right hand corner, that's two, and then over, that's three. And you guys already know exactly what to do. We're gonna double crochet, and then we're gonna slip stitch into our top chain here and double crochet and slip stitch. You got it. And then turn, add our final square. Same as before. You guys know the drill at this point. All right, this is our bottom corner. So we're doing the last double crochet. And we need to turn the corner. So we chain two, turn it, and now we're gonna go straight across the rest of the way. We are back at the next corner, so just a reminder of how to do this. We did our last double crochet, we chain one to finish this side's corner, we insert into that little nub, and we slip stitch to connect, and then we chain one again to complete this corner, and then double crochet straight across. All right, so we have completed everything on our panel besides this right hand corner. So that's what we're going to finish with. So we just finished our first half of this corner down here, and then we're going to round with two chains and just finish straight across just like we've been doing the entire time, finishing that bottom border. We're just going to go across, chain one, slip stitch into this bump, chain one, continue on. And we are at our last corner. And so all we're gonna do is, because we did both corners here, or both sides of the corner, I should say. So we did this half of the corner, we did our chain two, and we already rounded and did this half of the corner. All we need to do is slip stitch into that top V, pull through, and then we're going to cut off this yarn, pull that off, give it a tug, and then we are going to take these two tails. So this was our beginning tail, this is our ending tail, and just for security's sake, that first one is probably good, but just to, peace of mind, makes me feel better to weave it in a little bit. If it's going back and forth and you're really weaving it in there in all directions, there is no reason that it should ever fall out. So I'll just finish it off there. All right, so we can clip off our two ends. And you guys, we have our first panel. So you are going to go back, repeat this so that you get two panels that look like this. All right, it is time to make the back of the sweater, and we are going to be doing this with 12 squares. Now, this is another area in which you can customize the size. So if you want it to be bigger than this, I would do 15 squares. And that'll just give you more area, like around the waist, around your torso, So you can add 3 more right here to the side. You additionally, if you added more length to your front panel, you can add additional squares here. So you can totally customize the size of this to your liking. If you want it longer, if you need it wider, totally up to you. For a standard like small medium sweater, I'm going to stick with 12 squares. Now, visually speaking, the way I'm looking at it right now, is actually going to be even bigger because each border you see here is adding about an additional inch between each square. So they're actually going to be like, you know, spread out even more. And then come time for the end, we're going to be putting like an additional border across the bottom, like a trim piece, just to kind of finish everything off. So just keep all of that in mind when considering whether or not you want to add more squares or not. But this is what I'm going to be doing. So we're going to do the exact same process as we did with the front panel. So I am going to be kind of skipping ahead in this. If you need to go back and see kind of the nitty-gritty details of, you know, how to do it, you can go back and rewatch the front panel. But it is going to be the exact same process. The only thing is we're going an additional square on the side, and we're doing an additional row on the bottom. So very simple. So for me, because I'm doing an even number across, both sides are going to be different. So this side is going to be pink, green, pink, and this side is going to be green, pink, green. So it really doesn't matter which one I start with, but if you are going to add an additional row and do 5 squares across, then you may want to consider which squares you want more of, because it'll be uneven. So will it really make that much of a difference? Probably not. But like, for example, this side is going to have 2 pinks, and then this side would also have 2 pinks. Here, I'll lay it out fully. So do you want to have, you know, double pinks on the edge, or do you want to change it up so that you have, you know, 2 greens as your edges? So definitely lay this out before you get started and get it the way that you want it first. So I have the first horizontal line all made, and this is what I would recommend that you do. Basically, if you can just kind of wrap it around your back and see, let me stand up here. If you can wrap it around your back and see how far forward it gets. Obviously, when you wear this, it's not going to be tight like that, but you want it to be able to kind of wrap around the front a little bit, because if it's stopping like back here and that's tight to you, then it's not going to be loose enough. It is going to be too tight and not have that oversized billowy effect that we want. So if you can wrap this around and it kind of comes over the front of you and fully covers your side, that is a good size, I would say. Because then also consider, here we go. This is the front panel, and it's going to attach here. And so you just want to be able to have enough space, because personally I want this to be like kind of a balloon effect. I want it to be billowy and slouchy and comfy. So I don't want it to be like, you know, super tight to me. I want to have some space. When I wear a cardigan, I like to, you know, pull it in front, cover my stomach, things like that. So this seems like a perfectly good size for me. And then considering that, I only did 4 squares. So for me, 5 squares I think would be way too big for what I'm going for. So I feel confident and happy about doing the 4 squares. Definitely recommend you taking the time to stop and kind of play around, piece it together before you move any further, because it will be way easier for you to add on or take away now than when you get further down the line and the piece is already made. Not impossible, but just way easier to do now. All right, we have our entire back as well as our two front panels. So I'm gonna actually turn the back over so that the pretty side is facing down. And then we're gonna lay our two front panels on top. What I'm gonna be mindful of is that, so this edge, this is the back panel right here. I don't want two blues next to each other, so I'm just gonna flip this panel around so that when we sew these guys together, it continues that checkerboard pattern so that I have the green next to a pink and so on. So I'm just gonna lay that there and then make sure that it's correct on the other side as well. Make sure that they're opposite of each other. So now we're going to sew the top part of our panels together, so basically like the shoulder part, and then that's going to help us decide how long we want our sleeves. Okay, so to join together our two panels, we are going to work basically a simple like flat stitch, and it's going to give the same appearance of this braided flat look that we have in between our borders right now, so it will look seamless with the whole project, which is really awesome. And so basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna get rid of this panel and we're going to lay out our project right sides facing up. So we want both of the pretty sides up. We are first going to find our starting chains. So you're gonna see your 3 double crochets in the top chains there, and then our 2 chains. So we wanna take the first chain that kind of belongs to this side. So you'll go double crochet chain, and then that first chain 1 space. And you're only gonna grab the back loop. So we have this V here, and we have this one right here that is considered the front loop because it's closer to the pretty side. And then this one right here that is considered the back loop because it's on, you know, the inside or the back side. That's the one that we want to grab, is the back side loop. So we're going to insert our hook from front to back, grabbing that chain 1 and grab the back stitch. Put our hook through there. And then same thing on the other side. Grab that back stitch of the chain 1. And now we can just lay our hook there. Now we're gonna make another slip knot, and now you're going to just slide that loop right over your hook and pull tight. And now we're gonna pull that through like so. So we wanna keep our working yarn underneath here on the back side, and then you can pull this tail up here out of the way. And we're going to continue that whole process. So I'm going to always make sure that I grab the same side first. So I grabbed this chain first last time. And I'm going to grab this one. And then grab our working yarn over, pull through all of the loops that are on your hook. So grab your back chain on the right, and then your back chain on the left. Yarn over, pull through all 3. And you'll notice how easy it is to get this super tight, so definitely give yourself a little bit of slack. So yarn in the back, yarn in the back, pull up a loop and pull through. Okay, so I have my first panel sewn on here. And as you can see, I was pulling mine a little bit too tight to where now it's like pulling in on the side here. That will be fixed because we're gonna obviously like sew this part together to make the side. So it's not a big deal, but I definitely recommend like this first half here. You can tell I was pulling it a little tight and kind of messing up, but then this second half I really kind of got the hang of it and it looks a lot better. So that's okay though. Just like we did before to hook together our white corners, is I'm going to, once I get to my last stitch, I'm gonna slip knot through this corner here and this corner here and kind of treat it like I would do the stitches. So I'm gonna grab this stitch, grab this corner, and pull through both, like so, and then chain one. And then I'm gonna cut this and pull up through there. So that'll kind of be the close off of that part. All right, now we're going to flip this around and do the same thing on this side. We have our two front panels sewn onto our back panel, and now we're going to try this on, just kind of like a vest. And so the reason I wanted to try this on is because I knew that this would kind of cover part of my arm and go down my shoulder. And so I just need to kind of measure out how many squares I want for my sleeves. I think I want 3. Because like that would be 2. And that could work. Because I mean there'd be another border, there'd be a border, and then, oh, maybe I only want 2. Because that goes down to the cuff. Because we're going to add a cuff. Just like that on my sweater now. Because maybe 3 would be too much. Because I'd cover my hand. But I definitely don't want it to be too short. Because the shortest part of the shoulder is up here, so this is actually going to connect further up. I think I might want 3. I think I want 3, for me personally. Anybody smaller than me could easily get away with 2. When making your sleeves, if you want a shorter sleeve, you will do a panel of 6, just like the front panel. And basically this will be your length, and this will be your width, and this is going to like roll into the cylinder. Can y'all even tell what's happening? If you are wanting a longer sleeve, then you will do a square panel of 9 squares. Now, if you are in between sizing and like me, where you're kind of not sure if you want the shorter sleeve or the longer, this is what I'm going to do, is I'm going to sew this panel, try this back on and lay this over my arm, see if it's a good length or not, having all the border together. If I decide I want it longer, then I will just continue on adding this row. So I'm just going to start by making a 6-panel sleeve. Alright, so this is how I recommend you guys test out your sleeve. So I have the vest part on again, and then I've made my 6-panel sleeve. And basically, you want to make sure that you're looking at the shortest point, which is this shoulder seam where the panels connect. That's kind of your shortest point here, and so set your 6-panel sleeve on there, and then as you can see, I still have quite a bit of sleeve left over from the one that I'm wearing, and just adding a cuff would not suffice for the length that I want. So this confirms that I would need a 9 square panel. So 3 squares in length and then 3 around. So I'm just going to continue on with this one because I hadn't finished it yet, and just add another row and I'll be good to go. Alrighty, it is the next day for me, so a little outfit change here. So I finished both of my 9 square panels that we're using for the sleeves, and now it is time to turn them into a sleeve and put them together. So we're going to do the same method that we did to put our front and back sections together to attach the sleeves. And so for me, it doesn't really matter which direction I do. The same colors are going to end up the same way because it's all symmetrical. So really you just want to make sure that when you lay it flat, that the front side is underneath and that the back side is on top, so that when you fold it in, you see that nice side. All right, so the same method as before. So we're gonna find that chain 2 space right here and grab the back stitch of the closest one to this cluster. And then the same thing on the other side, grab the back stitch, lay that there for a second, and then we're gonna make a slip knot again, and then attach that over top of our hook, tighten it up, and pull that through. And so now we can grab the tail and just pull it in front so it's not in the way, and then keep our working yarn in the center and underneath as we go. We're gonna grab the back stitch of this one and the back stitch of this one, yarn over, slip that through, back stitch of this one, back stitch of this one, yarn over, pull through, and work that all the way down the row. As you're going down the line, you're going to want to just check every once in a while that essentially that your squares are lining up with each other on either side, because sometimes maybe you could skip a loop and one side is getting worked faster than the other, and then you end up on the other end with like uneven edges. So just kind of stop periodically as you go down to make sure that everything is lining up as you go. And if it's not, you can either take it out and start over, or just kind of make adjustments to line it up as best you can. It is the sleeve, and so this is going to be kind of the underneath, like the part that faces your body and kind of like up to your armpit. So people won't really see it, but I mean, we want to do the best that we can, right? So for example, right here, I'm just going to stop and make sure that these squares kind of end at the same spot and that one's not like way up here. You know what I'm saying? So we look pretty good. All right, so we have reached the end. Now we're just going to chain 1, cut that tail, whoops, and pull through. And so now it should be a pretty like seamless braided effect that really mimics what we've got going on here. So that is awesome. So we're gonna put our sleeves to the side here and grab our main body panel, so the back panel with the 2 front panels that have already been sewn together. And now we are going to sew together the sides. So let me lay this flat here the best I can. So right here, this is our front panel, and this is our back panel. I'm just going to put these 2 together here so that I have the side seam in front of me. I'm just going to pull our working yarn through underneath. And now we are going to sew the front panel to the back panel up the sides. But we don't want to go all the way. We only want to go about halfway, because then we are going to attach the sleeve to it. All right, we are nearing halfway, and I'm just going to lay this so that it's flat. And I'm going to grab one of our sleeves. What I want to do is grab whatever like the nicest seam is. So this is the edge that we sewed together. I want this to be as like underneath as possible because it's probably the least nice. So I want this one to be the top and have this sewn together seam kind of near like the armpit. So what I want to do is match up this top seam with the top of the seam which we sewed together, the front panel and the back panel. That top seam I want to line up with this. Now that we have this laid out, we can see that where we stopped here, we still need a few more stitches to get us to where the sleeve is going to start. So we have worked our way up to where the sleeve is going to start, and now we're just going to continue the process, but instead of sewing into our back panel here, we're gonna grab this sleeve and treat it the same way. All right, so now that I'm getting closer here, I can see that I'm a little bit off. As you can see, the square that's on the sleeve is actually kind of creeping up a little bit higher than the one on the shirt, and I really want these braided lines to be connected with each other. So I'm just gonna be mindful of that. I may have to do like 2 stitches together on the right-hand side just to kind of even it out. There. So I worked 2 sets of stitches together, and that pretty much put us in line. So we are good to keep going. All right, and once we get up to the top, just keep rotating your project around. It may get a little finicky, but that's okay. We're nearing that top seam, so I just want to be mindful of whether or not my squares are even and in line with each other. So now that we've gone all the way around, we're left with this little hole right here. And so basically, we're just gonna grab these first few stitches. We're just gonna grab that with our hook, grab that with our hook. It's a little weird, but just trust the process. You should have a few loops on your hook now. Just yarn over, and we're gonna pull through all of those just so that we're not left with like a big hole in the armpit. And then we're just gonna chain 1, and we're gonna cut and pull that loop through just like before, and then we'll weave this end in. Would you look at that? Our sweater has a sleeve. If you honestly wanted the like bell sleeve look, the wide sleeve, you could totally leave it like this, and that would be very cute. If you are the same as me and you don't really want to do the bell sleeve, next we're going to add the cuff. We're just going to do a slip knot per usual. Make that tail a little longer. We're going to chain enough stitches to be the width of cuff that you want. So there is no rule to this. I'm just going to go for it and then count. So I just chained a bunch. I'm going to lay it across here. See if I like that length. I would honestly prefer probably a wider cuff than this one, so I'm going to err on the side of it being longer, which that is about 1 or 2 chains longer. So I like that length. I'm going to count so that I can do the same on the other side. All right, so I did the first couple. You're going to work into that back bump, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. And this is just a very simple single crochet stitch. I'm going to work that down the line. So insert into the bump, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. And once you get down, whoops, to the last one, that's always the hardest, you're going to chain 1, and that's your turning chain. And then turn your work around. And then you'll skip this chain right here, because that is our turning chain. See how it's kind of like off to the side a little bit? That's kind of how I know that that's just the working chain. We don't want to use that one because otherwise our work is going to extend that direction. We don't want that. So we want to work in this chain right here because that one's going straight up. So hopefully you can see that. So we'll skip that working chain and work into the first chain of our work and just continue on that same stitch. So single crochets all the way down the line, chain one, turn your work, and continue. And you'll continue this until you get a pretty good length of what you think you'll need to fit your wrist. I think that this is about long enough, and I'm just going to measure, kind of see if that seems like a comfortable, width around. And just know that this is quite stretchy and it may stretch out over time. So for me, I'd rather have it be a little snug for now, knowing that it'll probably stretch out. So this seems perfect because it's like not too snug. I can still move around, and we're also going to be sewing it together, which will add a little bit more space as well. So we're going to do the same method to secure this as we've been doing the whole time, securing all of our different panels. The only difference that I will say is instead of only grabbing this back V, I'm going to grab the entire V. The reason I'm doing that is just for like security's sake. This is not really going to be seen. It's going to be underneath your wrist, and we're not really trying to like make that braided effect necessarily. We're just trying to secure it. So I want this to be as secure as possible. So I'm going to grab both V's, so the entire chain, and then do the same thing on this side. And again, you're going to go from out to in, so front to back, however you want to say it. Yarn over and pull through all of those stitches. Great. And now do it again. So grab your stitch from the outside to the inside, go to the other side, grab the whole stitch, yarn over, and pull through all of the stitches. Great. All right, so just continue that down the line. Take your time. It's only 10 stitches, so if you need to go slow, that's okay. You don't have very much to do. All right, this is our last stitch. Now we're just going to chain one, cut this, and pull through. All right, so that is what it should look like. Now we're just going to turn this inside out and weave these ends in down this seam. It is time to work our cuff onto our sleeve. Now, this probably looks very scary because the size of the cuff is literally like a quarter of the size of the sleeve. It is a little scary, but we are going to figure this out. So I wish that there was a little bit more of a strict like set of instructions that I could give you when doing this, but it really is just kind of messy. And that's okay, but it will look good in the end. But basically what we're gonna do is you're gonna need your yarn needle and a decent amount of yarn to thread in. And you're just going to take your sleeve, and I'm gonna match up the seam from the sleeve to the seam of the cuff, so that way that both of like the bad sides are together underneath the sleeve. And I'm just going to insert the yarn needle into one of the stitches of my cuff, and then insert that into one of the stitches of my sleeve to connect those two together. And I'm going to tie this end here just to stop it. There. That should not go anywhere. Okay, so I flipped us over here so that we can see this better. So we have our two seams lined up. We're working on the underside of the sleeve right now. Now we're going to work around our sleeve, and we're going to skip like 3 to 4 stitches. Put this, tighten it up, and then go back into that same stitch that we started at on the cuff. And pull that nice and snug. Now, what this is gonna do, I know it seems like super messy and just chaotic, but what that's gonna do is create that really like billowy cinched seam, which is the look that I'm personally going for. And I love that look. So we're gonna do the same thing, skip like 3 to 4 stitches, pull that through, and then go back in to the same stitch on our cuff. And pull that nice and snug. All right, skip a few more stitches again. And now we can move stitches on the cuff. Just go to the one right next to it. So when we're moving stitches on a cuff, we always go one over like we traditionally would. When moving stitches on the sleeve, we're gonna go like 3 to 4 stitches. And I wish I could give you an exact number and like work out the math, but because, you know, everybody's wrist size is different and we all kind of made it custom to ourselves, I don't know how many rows like of your cuff you have of stitches. So you will figure it out and it will look okay because there's really no rhyme or reason to it. All right, we are back around to the other side, and so when we get to this part where we're at our last stitches, I'm just gonna do a bunch of kind of back and forth to close off this hole because I really don't want it to unravel and I want it to be super, super secure. So I'm gonna finish off these last couple stitches, make sure you don't miss any, don't have any holes. All right, now I'm going to insert my hook just to make it go back to the inside and pull it all the way through. And so now I'm just gonna cut off a decently long tail. And then at the end, we're gonna turn our entire project inside out and weave in any leftover ends on the inside. So as you can see, y'all, we have half a sweater done. So we've got our panel connected all the way up the side, we've got our sleeve on and our cutie little cuff. So now just repeat all of that on the other side. But before you get too excited, we do have some cleanup work to do. So I'm just going to pull this sleeve inside out and I'm gonna weave in these last couple little tails. All right, so we have a sweater for the most part. So you could totally leave it like this if you wanted to. I think it still looks great. I think it looks pretty finished. For me, and the look that I'm going for, I want it to be almost a little bit more like a bomber jacket style where it's kind of like balloony. Right now, it just kind of looks like a straight, like, I don't know, just kind of like a flare, like straight jacket, which is cute, just not the vision that I had. So I want to add a little bit of a border around the waist, nothing too crazy, like probably half the size of this, so maybe only like 5 chains. Because I'm not going to add it around the center here. I'm only going to add it around the bottom. So I don't want the middle to look unfinished without a border. I just want to give this something a little bit to like cinch it in, if that makes sense. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to do a slip stitch and we're going to do 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then again, work into those back bumps. Skip the first one because that'll be your turning chain. So technically we're working 4 stitches. Chain 1, and continue with a single crochet just like you did with the wrist cuffs. Okay, so I just made my border, and as you can see, it is just about the full length of the bottom of the sweater, but I did cut it a little bit short because I want a slight balloon effect. So in the same way that the sleeves, like obviously the cuff was way smaller, and then you get that really like big balloon pillowy effect. I didn't want that totally, like that extreme. I just wanted it slightly. I want it to, because right now the bottom kind of like flares out because it's just flat. And so I just want something to kind of like bring it in, cinch it in a tiny bit without being like total bomber jacket, you know, style, just a little bit. So as I go along here, I'm probably going to like line up the stitches with the sweater, and then like every 3 or 4 stitches, like skip one on the sweater so that kind of cinches it in a little bit. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm gonna start right on that bottom corner of the sweater here and just start with my first stitch. I've already tied the end of this threading yarn to the bottom, or to the edge of the border. And so I'm just gonna go right down the line, matching up each stitch for about 3 stitches worth. So when I say skip a stitch, typically I'm going to connect these straight across with their corresponding stitches. So for example, I'm gonna grab this stitch and I'm gonna go straight across into this stitch and connect those ones together. Now, because our sweater is wider in length than our border so that we can get that cinched look, I'm gonna have to skip a stitch on our wider sweater. And so instead of grabbing this next stitch right here, I'm gonna skip that one and go into this one, but then still go into the next stitch on the border. Hopefully that makes sense. But I'm only doing that every like 3 to 5 stitches because I didn't make this that much shorter, just a little bit. It's not like when we were doing the cuff where like literally every time we were doing a stitch, we were skipping 3 stitches. So it's not gonna be as dramatic as that.